I want to start out with the Pelicans. They got swept on Tuesday night, Kyle. 4 games to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Second youngest team in the league, OKC, just looked like they had completely lapped the Pelicans, a team that's been there for some number of years now. And of course, with New Orleans, they didn't have Zion Williamson, who was sidelined in the series, unfortunately. And it's hard to win when you don't have your best player, when you don't have the 3 best players in the series. But I want to start off with the Pelicans because they're an interesting team to me. They're loaded with draft picks this offseason. And David Griffin, who runs their front office, said this morning, whereas in the past, we have erred on the side of continuity, and our takeaway has been, let's see this group healthy. I think we have seen it enough. There are teams that didn't make the playoffs that will be radically better next season. We need to do the same. Feels like to me, what I've heard with the Pelicans and with the Jazz and the Spurs, a lot of teams are going to be aggressive in the West this summer trying to get better. And Griffin's public words seems to support that New Orleans is finally going to try to cash in on some youth and some picks in order to accelerate things here. So I just kind of present that to you, Kyle, and I'm curious just about your overall thoughts on the state of the Pelicans following this sweep at the hands of the Thunder.
Yeah, if you want to go and just kind of use this series as a bill of health, sort of a little physical, we got the labs back. We know what we kind of know what's going on in the bodies. The big thing that for them has been health. Obviously, you build drafting Zion. I think everyone kind of you knew the upside was worth it. We knew the positives with him. We knew that he was going to be, he's still, when he's healthy, he hasn't quite, physically he's been up and down. He's had high points where we've been like, holy God, he is the guy we thought he was. And then he's had a lot of low points where he's either not playing or he's out of shape or whatever it is. And in this series, you and I said this, I think, on another show and I think everybody would agree with this. That like, if Zion were there, OKC really didn't have an answer for him. I mean, Jalen probably not quite strong enough. Nobody really has an answer for Zion. So he's just a unique, tough player in that sense. But when I look at like what OKC had going on, it's just the battle of the primaries. How many of the like top 3 like best players in this series do you think? How many did New Orleans even have? Did they have one of the 3 best players in the series overall? Do you think?
Yeah, not a chance. I mean, like Jalen Williams, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet Holmgren are all better than every player that was on the court for the Pelicans.
Yeah, and it just comes down to, do you want to run it back with Zion? I think they're going to have to find a more stable, what I'm getting around to say is like, they're going to have to find a more stable answer as their primary, because if you look at like what their big problem was in this series, there's no shame in not being able to guard Shai. Like I went game by game and was looking at like his isolation reps in this series were like insane. I think he broke 40 on the series, and was just a handful, like over and over again. They couldn't do anything with him. So, and then you have Brandon Ingram, who, he's a little dinged up. Did you watch his post game at all from last night? After that?
Yeah. I mean, he kind of indicated like this isn't representative of like what I'm going to be or what I am.
Yeah, he looked depressed to me, but I guess overall you just kind of he seemed
but he always,
really out of it. Yeah,
talk about tired. BI always looks tired too.
That's true. Yeah, he's kind of got that kind of sleepy kind of thing going on. But yeah, like, and then Dort, and I just think overall, if you're the Pelicans, you're just thinking like, okay, if we run this back, what's the likelihood that we end up here again? Like, I don't know that like either one of those guys. Their issue is just that like both of their primary options, or their would-be primary options, just have conditions, and both of them are kind of health driven, So I guess my question to kind of like throw to you would be like, are they going to move one of those 2 guys? I think that's the top line to even, let's say hypothetically they could find somebody who is still kind of in on, maybe Zion's injury situation is like bad, but we still have some belief like that we could take a chance, or is there somebody out there that could put Ingram in a better spot to serve him? I feel like they need an upgrade at the primary situation. And how the heck do you do that in this draft, especially considering the picks that they have?
The team they should call is the Phoenix Suns. And they should say, we want Kevin Durant, we want Devin Booker, we want one of those 2 guys. What is it going to take to get them? And the Suns are probably not going to want to trade either of them, obviously, especially Devin Booker. He's still only in his late 20s. But the KD aspect I'm very intrigued by, because you talk about stability and reliability. Say what you want about Kevin Durant. You can criticize the leadership aspect, how he's failed ever since he left Golden State. But he's a clear upgrade still, even in his mid 30s, over Brandon Ingram in terms of giving something to your team every single night on the court. And for New Orleans, they flirted with trading for Kevin Durant when he was leaving Brooklyn. There was talks about his relationship with Willie Green. They tried to connect. There was nothing there. KD wanted the Suns, and the Pelicans didn't trade for him. And that's why, like, that Griffin comment is so interesting to me, because clearly they had interest in the past. Why would that be unchanged now? They were willing to kind of run it back in the past with their young players to see what they were. Now they know what they're missing. So KD is the first name that really comes to mind for me as an upgrade over Ingram, who I do think they should trade. I think with Zion, you have to roll the dice with him. His upside is top 5 player in the league. And if you have him healthy for one playoff run or 2 playoff runs, and you have the proper supporting cast around him, you got a chance. You got a chance with that guy. Because you're right. There's nobody that could defend him on OKC, because there's really nobody that can defend him, period, when he's rolling, as we saw with him playing in prime condition this season. So I think for New Orleans, he's your wild card, but you need some star stability next to him. And that's something that CJ McCollum failed to provide. He has fallen off. He is not the guy he was in Portland. He only has 2 years left on his contract. They should be looking to upgrade from him, and they should be looking to upgrade from Brandon Ingram, because there's no way in hell you can trade or you can re-sign Ingram for the max when he's a free agent in 2025. Ingram and McCollum are the pieces that the Pelicans need to trade, and they need to use some of those future assets that they have. And they have a ton of first-round picks, including their own, that they need to flip in order to make this work with Zion, because you got to take advantage of that guy.
What do you think about the Cavs as a potential trade partner for them?
Let's
talk about the Suns really quick too. For the Pelicans, I feel like they have a way. They have a mutual way they could benefit
which player,
each other.
Mitchell?
Yeah. Because I wouldn't want Ingram if I'm the Suns. I think you need to bring Ingram into a situation where he is properly optimized in terms of in the pecking order. Like, if I'm the Suns and I'm looking at okay, well, where do we want to be? I'd assume you'd want to get some picks out of that.
Yes.
Because you want to start. You need some kind of asset.
I'm thinking Ingram and a mountain of picks for Durant. And that way, if you're the Suns side of things, you got Ingram who can, kind of, sort of do some of the stuff KD does in a diminished form. It's discount KD. But then you have those picks that you could flip into other players to bolster out your roster around Booker, Ingram, Beal, and whatever else you imagine getting with those picks.
Yeah, I'm trying to get Dyson Daniels. I'm trying to get Jordan Hawkins. I'm trying to get as many young upside.
Those guys can play, right? They can.
Yeah. Hawkins was up and down. I mean, he burst out of the gate this year and played pretty well. And then as his defensive kind of stuff happened and their lineup sort of came back into form, he just got a lot less burn. But I mean, I think, Booker is an interesting one. I just think that they do have some guys also that I think have the potential, if you threw them some sort of on ball rep bones. I think, how much of a leap do we think that Trey Murphy can make? That's kind of another question for me. He's 23 years old right now. He's got a year left on his deal. He seems to me like somebody that could make a step up if given the opportunity. Because I think at times he looks like their best player whenever Zion isn't out there or Ingram isn't out there.
Yeah, I think with Murphy, there's a couple things with him. The on-ball stuff, the creation. We know he can attack closeouts, but being able to create off the dribble, that should be a priority for him this summer. But maybe even more important than that is the off-movement shooting. He can shoot off movement, but looking at his numbers on Synergy, he is below 30% on threes off screens, below 30% off threes using handoffs. Those types of actions are where I think you could see him going from 7, 8 3-pointers per game to 10, 11, 12, because that guy has an absolute flamethrower. And just those two improvements, which I think are very realistic to expect from him. I don't think it's unreasonable not to see him improve there if he works on it. I think Murphy's a guy that he should be one of their keepers. I think Herb Jones is a keeper. He's the best perimeter defender in basketball, and if you don't agree with that, he's still one of the best, without a doubt. Trey Murphy, one of the better shooters in the league and also a good, solid, long-arm defender who plays hard, makes good decisions in his own right. Murphy, Zion, Herb, those guys are the clear keepers to me on the Pelicans. Am I missing anybody else aside from those three guys? And I know Zion, you might disagree, which I understand.
No, I think it's worth it just to keep Zion. I just don't know who you're going to be able to engage as a trade partner. I briefly thought about. I was joking with Rob about Mahoney about if they engage with the Hornets, because it seems like the Hornets are sort of at a pivot point where they're like, okay, I think we have enough empirical evidence to sort of establish that Brandon Miller is our guy, or has at least established that he's worth being the main thing that we think about. And I'm like, well, what if you do like a LaMelo Zion thing, distress for distress. They're both out a lot. I think Miller and Zion, I know it's like a fantastical, far-fetched thing, but Miller and Zion together to me is an amazing pairing. Like, I think that could be great. And then, LaMelo comes in and becomes more of a drink stirrer that can sort of hang back and set some of these other guys up to develop. But I'm more curious about the Cavs, honestly, just because I think Mitchell could come in. I think you could start to sort of it serves the same purpose. Ingram with them, they need some more length and some size and some scoring there that they could put with Garland and Mobley and Allen or whoever it is that they choose to keep, because I think they need to make a change too. But overall, they just got to figure out a way to upgrade that primary position. And that's the hardest thing to do in the sport, obviously.
The Mitchell suggestion is interesting for a couple of reasons, because A, he's going to be a free agent in 2025. You'd be taking a major risk. However, that would fit kind of the same logic as what we kind of heard about pre-draft last year with the appeal Scoot Henderson had to the Pelicans, that downhill attacking guard to pair with Zion, two athletic guys to pair together, playmaking skill and scoring skill combined. Mitchell Zion could be really fascinating together as a combination, so much so that if you're the Pelicans, maybe that's the type of bet you have to make. Ingram's going to be a free agent. Mitchell's going to be a free agent in 2025. It could be mutually beneficial depending on what the Cavaliers envision for what they get back from Mitchell if it comes to that. And we'll see. We'll see there. What about Garland? Does Garland have appeal for you as kind of that more traditional point guard for the Pelicans? And I just want to add this. Griffin, another thing he did say this morning in his press conference on Tuesday was, I don't think we need a traditional point guard. It's more like we just need higher basketball IQ. I'm paraphrasing there, but the way I heard that was we need better than CJ McCollum as our, smaller guy in the backcourt. So Garland, does he have appeal as kind of like a backup option to you besides Mitchell?
Yeah, he does. I think in that situation, he could. The defensive anchor part of it, I think, is another question for them to ask as well, because we know that they have sort of this switchy, ranginess in the 2, 3, 4 spots. I think they're set up to succeed, but I do think that they should consider the ball pressure is good. Garland could be protected there, I think, in a way. They have more rangy wings than the Cavs do, which I think could protect him. I always just like the idea of him moving off the ball. That didn't come to fruition in the way that we thought it would with the Cavs, with this alignment with him and Mitchell. I like Garland. I like his game. I don't know if it's a function of the distaste that people have kind of developed. I don't know if it's a function of the way that he's fit with Mobley, and then maybe in a different situation that he could pop more. I don't know. Do you think his star status has slipped a little bit? I feel like people have definitely come down on him. What would you even attribute that to?
I think the Mitchell Garland fit is definitely a big factor in that for Garland. And, I haven't soured on him completely. I still have a lot of interest in him in the right situation. And to me, New Orleans is one of them because of, like you said, the movement shooting potential, the ability to play on and off ball. He is a smart player, but the two small guards isn't perfect for Cleveland. And I believe there's more dynamics in the Pelicans offense really as a result of Zion with what he can be as that creator, that downhill attacker compared to Allen and Mobley, who aren't that at all. That could unleash Garland in ways that he hasn't been able to since pre-Mitchell with Cleveland. The Pelicans, they also have Jonas Valanciunas, who's going to be a free agent this offseason. I think after going from Adams to Valanciunas, even though Valanciunas can shoot threes a little bit, he's not a reliable guy. If I'm New Orleans, I'm looking to upgrade off of him as well, in addition to over Ingram and over McCollum. The other decision they have to make is the Lakers pick. They do have the rights to take the Lakers pick in 2024, which would be the 17th pick, or they could defer it to 2025 and get it unprotected in the 25 class. What would you do?
That seems like an obvious.
You're deferring.
That's hit me. Yeah, like I think that one's an obvious one. I'm deferring.
Yeah. I'm deferring.
Well, considering, I mean, that one's that would be a fireable offense. I mean,
there's got to be
every reason.
There's got to be a guy that you are like head over heels in love with that you think you can get with the 17th pick as the steal of the draft in order to take it this year. But I just don't see how you couldn't defer with all the uncertainty with LeBron's future and the Lakers and what they could do this summer. You have to defer. They could miss the playoffs next year.
Could become a lottery pick. Yeah. In a draft that's twice, 3 times as good next year. So yeah, that's a no-brainer.
That's an easy.
I doubt he loses much sleep over that one. Also, well, I mean, I guess also as a trade chip, that's an interesting thing to use too.
Way more value.
That's a really interesting pick that they have, considering what's going on with the Lakers.
And plus, they do have the 21st pick already in this draft because of the swap they have with the Bucks. The Bucks will have the 23rd pick instead.